Hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel, the bold and beautiful always, and today we've got something really exciting lined up for you. Fire if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video. Grace's heart hammered in her chest like a furious drum as she sprinted through the bustling corridors of Forrester Creations, the echo of Finn's voice still ringing deep in her ears. Catch her. She's a scammer. Propelling her forward, each step fueled by an intoxicating blend of fear, desperation, and adrenaline. She could taste the metallic sting of panic on her tongue, could feel her lungs laboring for air in the sudden, suffocating reality that her carefully constructed house of cards was collapsing. Earlier, she'd watched in frenzied horror as he confronted her in front of everyone, matriarchal Ridge and Eric, her fellow designers, Hope and Steffi, even her own mother, who until that moment had stood in stunned disbelief at the accusation that Grace had been orchestrating an elaborate scam, embezzling funds from the company under the guise of philanthropic fashion lines, diverting designer fees into shell accounts, manipulating contracts, even forging signatures, all to fund her private, decadent lifestyle and avoid the scrutiny that came from being Ridge's new or former wife. Finn had the evidence pinned neatly on a clipboard, files open to spreadsheets with fraudulent billing lines, invoices from non-existent charity events, and bank statements that traced every withdrawn dollar back to accounts in shell corporations tied to her. At the sight of those documents, their eyes had widened. Thrown into sharp relief were the depths of her deception, the betrayal searing everyone's trust in her. She remembered Finn's face, normally so gentle, loving, hopeful, twisted with hurt and disgust, rising to his feet as his voice cracked with righteous fury, echoing off the studio's glossy surfaces. "You lied to all of us," he'd said, gesturing to the proof in his trembling hands. "To me. To Liam. To everybody who believed in you. That scam, your scam, ended today." The room had gone silent, breaths caught, eyes aimed accusingly at her. For the first time, she felt naked, drenched in shame and dread. In that instant, she made a choice. The veneer of grace she'd cultivated, pun absolutely intended, crumbled, leaving only raw survival instinct in its place. And so she ran. She tore through rooms she'd once stood in with poise, paths where she'd dreamed of creating her legacy, not burning them down. Doors slammed behind her as she raced past Alan's office, the murmurs of curious staff turning into faint shouts of astonishment. She didn't care who witnessed it, didn't care if the moment she disappeared became the headline in tomorrow's social columns. The only thing that mattered was that she kept moving, kept fleeing. Hallways blurred as she whirled past framed sketches of iconic Forrester gowns and landmark moments in the design house's history. She could nearly hear her own pulse in her skull, her breaths coming in ragged heaves. Her stilettos were abandoned in a heap mere yards after the start, each abandoned heel scraping the polished tile as she accelerated into flats of panic and urgency. She sprinted toward any exit she could find, each door a promise of freedom, until she reached the loading dock. A back alley spilled out beneath the moonlight, cool air hitting her like a spray of ice in contrast to the furnace of internal panic that burned her chest. She paused only to catch her breath, pressing her hand against the brick wall, feeling the rough grooves beneath her palm like the jagged edges of her new reality. The sirens had begun then, faint at first, and then swelling into a cacophony that chased her through the city streets. Doubled over, tears forced their way out, hot and unbidden, tears of regret, tears of heartbreak, tears of fear. She had been exposed, laid bare before those she'd manipulated, and the shame was suffocating. But beneath that shame was something darker, defiance, the fierce flame of self-preservation that would not be extinguished. She would not go down quietly, she would not be branded solely as a villain in this twisted narrative she had authored with her lies. She straightened, letting a hard glint ignite in her green eyes as she scanned the dimly lit alley for her escape options. Grace had always been resourceful, picking locks, manipulating people, forging documents. Now, she would disappear. She fumbled for her phone, dialing a burner number she'd kept in case things spiraled, a lifeline to a fixer who'd guide her out of this mess, connect her to a plane, a new identity. The first few rings felt eternal. Behind her, the echo of distant footsteps and flashing lights underscored every second of her frantic existence. She pressed the phone deeper into her trembling palm, willing it to connect. Finally, a voice answered, calm, businesslike, neutral. "It's time," Grace slurred, voice rough with tears and panic. I'm on the run. Within minutes, a dark SUV rolled into view at the alley's mouth, engine quiet and waiting. She dove into the backseat, the door clicking shut behind her, sealing off the cool night air and replacing it with the tense hush of clandestine escape. She sank against the leather upholstery, phone ringing in her lap as the fixer asked for a status update. Grace covered her face, the tears still leaking past her fingers. He outed me, she whispered. Finn, he had proof. The car lurched forward, pulling into traffic as headlights came up behind them, too close. She pressed her head to the window, watching the city streak by, its lights pulsing like her heartbeat. Sirens wailed in the distance. Another set drew closer, this time, reflecting red and blue guggen the glass, and she jerked back upright, breathing fast. We need to shake the tail, she said, stinging with edge. Do it now. As the SUV veered off, hugging side streets and making abrupt turns, Grace sat back, mind racing. The scope of what she'd done was enormous: embezzlement, fraud, betrayal of everyone who'd trusted her. The scandal would hit front pages, tabloids, social media. Liam would be shattered. Ridge outraged. Hope furious. Even Ridge's mother would have something to say. And then there was Steffi, who'd once been her friend. Could they ever recover? Could she ever? But tonight wasn't about recovery. Tonight was about survival. She let her gaze drift to the dark window again, reflection blurred, tears dried on her cheeks. She pictured Finn's face, blue eyes blazing with pain and righteous anger, and something cold and fierce engorged her. The love she'd once felt twisted into something dangerous. She realized, despite everything, she still craved the power, the control. Just as the car rounded yet another corner, escaping into the tangled web of city streets, Grace pressed her palm to the window, as if trying to recapture that moment in the design studio and rewrite it. But reality, harsh, irrevocable, stayed firm outside. The fixer's voice came again, clipped. Next safe house in an hour. Lay low. Then the passport. Disappear. Grace nodded, though the fixer couldn't see. The door would close behind her soon, back into the world, alone, hunted, but unbowed. She'd done what she had to do to vanish. She straightened her shoulders, smoothing remnants of her once impeccable outfit. She was still standing. Broken, yes, but not defeated. The sirens faded behind her, swallowed by distance. Ahead lay uncertainty, darkness, exile. But also possibility for transformation, for renewal, away from the lies and the scandal. She exhaled, slow and resolute. The fugitive Grace Logan was born this night. Her mind drifted, tortured by what she'd lost, the trust of those she'd once held close, the stability of the world she inhabited. But beneath the loss shimmered a perverse thrill, liberation in anonymity, the chance to reinvent herself without the cage of expectation or reputation. She pictured herself shedding the clothes of Grace Forrester, shedding that identity entirely. A new name, new city, new life, clean slate. And though guilt clawed at her chest, whispering that no peace would ever come from a life on the run, she shoved that voice down, replaced it with determination. She would escape. She would survive. She would thrive. The cityscape blurred past, concrete towers, neon signs, the glow of late-night diners. And hidden beneath that glow, in the back of a dark SUV, Grace found grim solace. The chase had begun. She was running from the scandal she'd created, from the evidence that bore her name, from the faces she'd shattered. But she was not giving up. With the fixer's calm voice guiding her next moves, Grace pulled her knees to her chest, head bowed in the dim cabin light. Tears still threatened, but she wouldn't let them flow again. Not then, not now. She would emerge from the darkness one day, a new version. And when she did, they'd all regret the day they ever called her a scammer. The bold and the beautiful spoilers for Monday, July 21st reveal that Grace Buckingham's plot will have a significant flaw. The following is what viewers can anticipate. Bill Spencer just received the MRI results from Grace, which confirmed that Liam Spencer's tumor was completely gone. John Finn Finnegan will also play detective with stunning results. As Friday's episode came to a close, Finn evidently couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. That resulted in some moments of celebration. Finn isn't going to let this go, as evidenced by the contemplative expression on his face. Obviously, Bill doesn't care about the specifics of Liam's procedure. All he cares about is that Liam will survive. On the other hand, Finn is a doctor who likes to know everything, especially in bizarre cases like this one. As a result, Finn will attempt to solve the mystery in Monday's B&B episode by acting as a detective. Since Bill said that Grace and her co-worker were running the show, you can bet Grace will end up in charge. Grace's scheme is seriously flawed because she really ought to have tried harder to conceal her part in this. He would have done it out of gratitude if Grace had pushed Bill to keep her name out of it. Grace might have been able to get away with doing all of this in a different way. Grace, on the other hand, became careless because she was so eager to get her hands on Bill's $1 million. Grace will not be able to provide the appropriate responses to Finn's questions at this point. Bad news is on the way because Grace is bound to become agitated and stir even more suspicions. Finn may consult Bridget Forrester once more to obtain her perspective on this bizarre circumstance. Bridget and Finn may ultimately realize that Grace is the mastermind behind the century-old con. Grace appears to have conjured up a brain tumor for Liam and put all the pieces in place so that she could ultimately get Bill's money. Grace will find a way to get out of whatever debt mess she's in, but if she loses her job and is arrested, it could cost her more than she bargained for. Stay tuned for the bold and the beautiful spoilers, which reveal that Liam Spencer cheated death twice this week on the CBS soap. Finn will demonstrate his determination when it comes to seeking updates on the actual story. Is Dr. Spencer swindling the Spencer clan, or is Bill Spencer's son the luckiest man alive? Who is Grace Buckingham? Find out by reading on. Spoilers ahead for what comes next on B&B. Read on. Liam has an experimental operation. Finn and his team raced Liam Spencer to the operating room to remove the bullet after he was shot by Luna Nozawa, Lisa Yamada. Liam Spencer was able to escape the wound. When Liam's father Bill Spencer arrived at the hospital, he discovered that his son had been concealing the fact that he had been diagnosed with cancer. Dollar Bill quickly came up with a deal with Dr. because he likes to act like God and throw money at his problems. Grace Buckingham for his son's safety. Grace performed experimental surgery to remove Liam's inoperable brain tumor after Bill and Grace checked him out of the hospital and transported him to a different location. As soon as the surgery was complete, Bill Spencer wired her $1 million. Not bad for a single day of work. Is Bill Spencer dead? The spoilers for Bold and the Beautiful suggest that Bill Spencer might have been duped. Grace Buckingham is a doctor, so it's odd that she let Liam out an hour after 2 big surgeries. She said that a nurse would take care of Liam at the Spencer mansion, but everything about it is very suspicious. In addition, we cannot overlook the shady activities Grace's husband was involved in, such as stealing babies and selling them using his medical credentials. What would happen if Liam Spencer awoke to find that nothing had changed and that his father had spent $1 million on a fictitious surgery? Do you believe Grace defrauded Liam and Bill Spencer? What would happen if Liam Spencer awoke to find that nothing had changed and that his father had spent $1 million on a fictitious surgery? Do you believe Grace defrauded Liam and Bill Spencer? Many B&B fans are aware that Steffi Forrester and her father Ridge Forrester slammed Bill for letting Luna get a pardon, which led to her shooting Liam Spencer, his son. When Bill wanted to see his son, they tried to kick him out of the hospital because they were so mad at him. Naturally, there was a lot to say about the subject on the internet. Don Diamorne has always been Brad Carlton, the fantastic role created for him by master writer and storyteller, Bill Bell, was one of the comments made by some. This actor's talent has been harmed as a result of being quickly cast in the awful role of Dollar Bill Spencer, which never fit Don. He was hired right away by Bradley Bell after Y&R made Diamorne unemployed. However, Diamond's acting range was not showcased by Bradley Bell's poor creation of a character. What is Bill Spencer's next move? I agree, wrote another critic of the show. Don Bill, you need to act out of character because these jerks shouldn't be telling you about your son. As if they are significantly superior. Ridge and Stephanie must both fall from a helicopter. I hope she needs to get drunk. Because he is related to them, he ought to drive them all out of the hospital. He must exercise his authority. Brad Bell treats him like crap. He has been disgusting to this talented actor. Get some primetime Don was another comment. Bill's role on the show has been reduced to Ridge, Steffi, and Taylor lecturing, which is a pity. The CBS network airs The Bold and the Beautiful on weekdays. 4 times. Check your local listings. For the time being, let us know what you think in the comment section below. According to The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers, Liam Spencer, Scott Clifton, might not have had a brain tumor at all. For everything you need to know, continue reading below. It's possible that Liam never had a brain tumor at all. Given that Liam has not received any treatment other than radiation or chemotherapy, it would come as no surprise to anyone if there was speculation that his diagnosis of brain cancer might have been a false one. In addition, before he was given pills to take and given a tumor diagnosis, he appeared to be a little dizzy and had fallen over. There have been suggestions that in order for Grace Buckingham to receive her compensation from Bill Spencer, she may have made him sicker than he was. The internet certainly did have a lot to say about the subject, as our readers can imagine. The question, is it possible he doesn't really have a brain tumor, but something far less lethal, has even been raised in response by some. Perhaps Dr. With the intention of extorting money from Bill, Buckingham made him appear significantly sicker. Everything here is just so convenient. Additionally, her colleague is readily available. However, performing brain surgery outside of a hospital is highly questionable. What is Liam Spencer's next move? I think that the only part of his illness that was fabricated was the tumor, wrote another critic. He really did have a brain bleed that resulted in him falling and hitting his head after he and Bill got into an argument, but she got the idea in her head to use this as a way to scam him and his family out of money when Liam was brought to Grace as a patient. Additionally, there was a remark that went something like this: "We know she is having some weird family issues and it looks like from the previews that she is going to get money from Bill." Although the idea that this has been a lengthy con is great, I was just thinking that she would lie about being able to save him. She would then know why she is so upset that he doesn't want to take more medication. He probably has symptoms from the pills, which would explain why he isn't dead yet. Naturally, fans of B&B will simply need to tune in every day to find out what happens next. The CBS network airs The Bold and the Beautiful on weekdays. 4 times. Check your local listings. For the time being, please let us know what you think in the comment section below.